guidance that encouraged schools to take race into account in college admissions. The policy known as affirmative action was meant to promote diversity in college admissions. The shift would give universities the government's blessing to take a race-neutral approach when considering potential students. This comes amidst a Supreme Court vacancy. Through the years, the court has ruled that race can be taken into account if it is narrowly tailored. But many conservatives want to scrap affirmative action entirely. And that is our debate. Let's bring in Kenneth Vecchio, Republican strategist and attorney, and Bishop Garrison, Democratic strategist and former Obama campaigner. Bishop, I want to start with you because there is this argument that affirmative action perpetuates a society that is based on race.
Sure. Thank you for having me, first and foremost. Ultimately, what this policy encourages is the idea that for schools during the admissions decisions process, they ensure that their student bodies properly reflect the communities as they exist today. And in that, if they are not mindful, if those schools aren't mindful of that, they run the risk of being homogenous. And we've seen through numerous studies from some of the best schools in the nation that diversity is a strength and an American value, that we're stronger whenever we have more diverse populations within these groups.
Ken, don't we already take into account, don't a lot of schools already take into account considerations that are not based on academic factors, such as whether you're a good athlete or whether your parents went to the university? So it's not just race that is sometimes a non-academic factor that may be taken into account.
I'm sorry, but everything that Bishop stated, with all due respect, is complete nonsense.
Shocker.
This is a great day for justice, fairness, and equity and the United States Constitution, because affirmative action measures, whether they're law or policy, violate the Equal Protection Clause for one simple reason: because people are not treated equally. We have to stop with all this talk about separating people by race and by ethnicity and just look at ourselves as human beings.
But don't we have a history in this country of treating people unfairly and not having a level playing field? So what's wrong with trying to level it now for a period of time?
There's a lot wrong with it, because in today's world, in 2018, we're not living in the 1950s and 1960s when we did need civil rights activists and movements. In today's world, you have plenty of laws, civil laws, that if people violate them and they discriminate against people based on race, or ethnicity, religion, then they get sued. It doesn't happen today. What's going on now is that you have discrimination against an entire group of people. Unfortunately, for people like me, who's Italian, and for Jewish people and for Catholics, it's white people. It's completely unfair. If my son has the highest grades and he has the highest SAT scores, he shouldn't be set back because if somebody's of a different race or ethnicity and let somebody else take that position. Things should only be based on qualifications. And when we base things on qualifications, then people are gonna get along better.
I wish that were true. In 2018, we just saw, literally last month, a group of Asian Americans suing Harvard University because of the exact facts that you just put forth, because they were actually being discriminated against, and caps were put on the number of potentially put on the number of Asian Americans that were being allowed into the school based on race.
This is horrible.
And I know it is, and it's still happening today. This is an issue of marginalized people throughout the history of America just are looking for equal opportunity, looking for equal footing, equal consideration.
But that's
they are not looking for. They are not. That's looking back at what has happened to them.
What about the argument,
and looking at what is happening to them today?
But what about looking forward? Because there's also an argument that affirmative action creates a negative stigma to the people who, based on affirmative action, may get into.
I could not be. Hold on, let me make my point.
Okay.
I could not agree with you more in the sense that I want equal footing for everyone across the board. The reality of the situation is we don't live in that America yet. That is a goal in which we are aspiring to reach. But until we reach that goal, we're going to need policies in this like this
Bishop,
that is smart. That the Supreme Court,
in that America
that the Supreme Court themselves have supported and said, as long as it's narrowly so what is the highest court in the land and the most powerful country in history?
This whole talk about that precedence shouldn't be overturned is a convenient speak by politicos when they want something that's not currently happening.
How important it is to listen to the law and respect the law. I'm trying to respect the law. I agree with you.
The United States Supreme Court is there to interpret laws, not to legislate. And sometimes they legislate. And when they do legislate, it's the right time for their own laws to be overturned. So this is high time, with Justice Kennedy leaving, because of the last
So you want it both ways.
Just so I'm
You
clear,
absolutely
it sounds like you feel that affirmative action has run its course, that it is time now to move forward to something that doesn't have affirmative action. Is that the argument?
Absolutely. So there was a time, David, when affirmative action type laws were necessary in the 50s and 60s, maybe into the 70s. It's long since been unnecessary.
Based on what is unnecessary today. Black men are still being shot in the streets. Women are still being discriminated against.
Men are shot in the streets too. And look,
come on, Kenneth, that is intellectually dishonest.
Beyond the violence, what about, let's talk about academia, though, because these are all people who are trying to get into college. And the question is, what sort of college environment do you want to create? Aren't we still in a situation, Ken, where there's a fundamental difference in terms of the quality of education you get depending on where you grew up and what your skin color is?
No, not in 2018. There's been so many years when affirmative action has been not...
Will you let me finish? I love the America you live in. That's ridiculous.
There's so many years when affirmative action had been necessary, and so many years after where it hasn't been necessary. Now the balance scales have tipped.
I love that a white man from New York City is letting me know that I don't have to worry about being discriminated against anymore.
I'm from Bergen County, New Jersey.
And that wasn't his point. But my point is, how long should this continue, though, if affirmative action is needed? How much longer should it go?
We've actually seen some legitimate statistical data that demonstrates that I'm not. I'm saying until the data does not tell us. When we're listening to the Harvard Business Review, when we're listening to Yale Med School of Management, they are saying that we still need this today.
Wait a second.
They are saying we still need this today.
You made my point when you said that Harvard's being sued by Asians because Asians are being discriminated against, because Asians who have the higher scores are being told, hey, you can't come in because we need more race diversity. Now we want less
So they're
Asians.
being discriminated against, so that tells you that we don't need it?
You guys are far better than anything the United States Supreme Court is going to hear from. Ken Del Vecchio and Bishop Garrison, thank you both so much for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Still to come, the 4th of July means fireworks, not as good as these guys, but don't be like these dummies. This government-issued video